Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a hidden health crisis that honestly, nobody really wants to talk about out loud. We're unpacking the profound impact of losing intimacy as we age, specifically looking at life after 60. You know, as the decades roll by, some physical changes are totally expected, right? But others, well, they operate completely under the surface, silently rewriting how we feel every single day.
So what actually happens to your body when intimacy just disappears? Well, we're going to explore the physiological and psychological cascade that gets triggered when this vital human connection slowly fades. If you're over 60 yourself, or if you care deeply about someone who is, you're going to want to pay close attention here. Because we're about to cover a massive change that so many seniors experience every single day without ever realizing the true root cause.
Okay, let's shatter a huge misconception right out of the gate. Society loves to push this myth that intimacy is strictly about romance or physical pleasure, something reserved exclusively for the young or newly in love. But the reality is that intimacy is literally hardwired into your biology. Losing it physically alters your heart health, messes with your sleep patterns, tanks your mood, and impacts your overall biological well-being. It's an absolute foundational pillar of healthy aging.
For the rest of this explainer, we really need to look at intimacy through a much broader lens. We're talking about emotional closeness, meaningful touch, trust, and companionship. The whole shebang. Get this, a simple 20-second hug is actually enough to demonstrably lower your blood pressure and your heart rate. Once you understand that meaningful touch is an actual biological necessity, it completely shifts how we approach aging entirely.
Moving right into Section 1, the hidden emotional toll. We're going to see exactly how emotional distance begins impacting the mind.
Let's look at how this emotional distance starts silently taking its toll. The very first major consequence we see is a sharp spike in loneliness and depression. And there's a biological reason for this. When we experience physical affection, our brains get flooded with these amazing bonding and reward hormones, like oxytocin and dopamine. When intimacy fades, that chemical tap just gets completely shut off. Because of this, older adults can start feeling intensely isolated, even if they're physically sitting in a room surrounded by well-meaning family and friends.
This brilliantly illustrates how incredibly subtle this shift can be. They begin feeling more like roommates than partners. Just picture a retired couple. Over the months, maybe years, they slowly stop expressing those tiny acts of affection. They stop holding hands, they stop sitting close on the couch. The real issue here isn't necessarily a lack of physical intimacy in the traditional sense, it's the loss of that meaningful, reassuring touch. Emotional distance almost always follows physical distance, and man, that takes a heavy toll on mental health.
Okay, Section 2, the physical domino effect. Let's look at the actual biology of connection. Now, emotional isolation doesn't just stay in your head. It triggers this literal chain reaction of biological dominoes in the body, and it starts with significantly higher stress levels. Without those soothing, connective experiences, your body's primary stress hormone, cortisol, can just stay elevated for way too long. This chronic stress brings on daily fatigue and irritability, and the tragedy here is that so many seniors just assume this constant tension is simply a normal part of getting older. They completely miss that a lack of emotional connection is the real culprit.
The third change hits your sleep quality. If you've ever found yourself tossing and turning at night, you might be surprised to learn that emotional closeness actually helps people feel safer, calmer, and way more relaxed before bed. When intimacy disappears completely, folks usually notice a massive spike in restlessness. And poor sleep, it doesn't just make you groggy, it severely impacts your memory, your concentration, and even suppresses your immune function.
This brings us to a really frustrating trap that older adults often fall into. Step 1. Deep loneliness directly ruins your sleep. Step 2. That terrible lack of rest wrecks your mood and totally drains your energy the next day. Step 3. Because your mood is so compromised, it completely blocks you from reaching out to make those social connections, which throws you right back into Step 1. It's just a relentless, exhausting cycle.
As this physical and emotional domino effect keeps rolling, we hit the fourth impact, a sharp, painful decline in self-confidence. Look, facing the natural physical changes of aging is hard enough on its own, but when intimacy disappears, people often start questioning their own attractiveness, their value, or their desirability. Someone who's lost a spouse, for instance, might falsely convince themselves they're simply too old for meaningful companionship, and that mindset gradually but drastically lowers self-esteem.
The final consequence in this whole chain reaction is a very noticeable drop in overall physical health.
Researchers have proven time and time again that strong social and emotional connections are directly linked to better physical health outcomes. Without those strong social anchors, the motivation to keep up a healthy lifestyle basically just evaporates. People stop exercising, they might stop eating well, and they often start skipping crucial medical appointments. Connection literally acts as the scaffolding for healthy aging from multiple directions.
That brings us to Section 3, How to Rebuild Connection, and the steps you can take today.
So here's the good news, and it is really good news. These negative outcomes, they aren't inevitable. We can absolutely break this cycle and rebuild these vital anchors no matter your relationship status or age. You just need to actively focus on connection in all its forms. Reach out to family regularly. Join a community group or club. Stay physically active. If you are in a partnership, practice open communication. Honestly, non-romantic friendships and community ties are incredibly healing, and they provide that exact emotional closeness your biology is craving.
I want to leave you with this final thought to chew on. Aging does not mean giving up on connection. It remains a fundamental biological necessity whether you're 25 or 95. What if the real secret to your longevity isn't just sitting in a pill bottle, but in the palm of the hand you're holding? Think about your own life right now. What steps are you going to take today to nurture the relationships in your life? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and hey, keep pursuing those vital connections.